Warning.
You are now tuned in to 7 Mile Radio.
Peace, peace, peace. What's up, black people? Welcome back to Revolutionary Wealth Builders over on 7 Mile Radio. You are here live with your good brother Emmett. I hope all is well in your work week on this wonderful Thursday. I'm doing a little housekeeping, sharing the page so we can get people to tap into this very important conversation. I know we threw you guys for a loop last week when we came on Wednesday. We're continuing these topics on relationships over the next couple of weeks. So last week we talked in depth about relationships. This week we're going to talk about dating outside of the culture. And this conversation, so segment 1 we'll talk about dating outside the culture. And then segment 2 is going to be titled Your Ignorance is My Business. And it's going to be a continuation of this same discussion. But I do realize and recognize that as a group of people, we have varying perspectives on this particular topic. I personally am beginning to see a multitude of women start to talk about the idea of dating outside the culture because they are just not getting the results that they are looking for. And we know that typically when men of African descent start to become affluent, that they begin to explore or date outside the culture in some instances, not all the time. And now one of the things that we have to be clear on before we really dig into this conversation is that the percentage is still relatively small as it relates to dating outside the culture. But just as alternative lifestyles are, dating outside the culture can have political and historical ramifications that come along with your personal choice. And so I think that it is very important for us to peel back the layers of this conversation. And so I'm not going to share with you right off the rip as to how I feel about this topic. I'm going to explore the facts and explore the information. And we're going to start that with a conversation with a photo that started this whole entire thought in my mind of even having this show. And it's a photo of the brother Umar Johnson and then the brother Shannon Sharp. And we're going to discuss why they had a little tete-a-tete, so to speak, or a war of words. And so it started with brother Umar making a decision that he wanted to critique LeBron James as to why he allowed his son Bronny James to take someone outside of the culture to the prom, right? And so, what's up, Nia Hawkins? And so he was very specific. What's up, Barbara? Oh, Cynthia Deanna. And so he was very specific as to why he felt that LeBron should have been more socially responsible in not allowing Bronny James, who is now a role model to younger basketball players and younger athletes within the culture, to not, what's going on, sis, to not allow Bronny James to date outside the culture. The way he explains it is it shows a lack of social irresponsibility. LeBron James is followed and loved by millions, and it now endorses the continuation of dating outside the culture. So let's talk a little bit historically about dating outside the culture. Well, no, first, before we talk historically about dating outside the culture, let's talk about the exchange between Umar and Shannon Sharp. So Shannon Sharp responds on Twitter to Umar's discussion specifically geared towards LeBron James in relationship to Bronny James. And Shannon Sharp basically says, who people date is their business. Get out of people's business. Who I date is my business. So Umar goes on a verbal tirade, basically calling Shannon Sharp out, saying he will debate him anywhere. And if you know Umar for sure, you know he has his data and information in order if he was to go on a show. Shannon Sharp basically shunned him away, kind of like mushed him and said, I'm not going there with you. My business is my business. Your business is your business. While Shannon Sharp is an intelligent man, he doesn't want any intellectual smoke with Umar in that discussion area. Maybe in football, or maybe how historically sports have been impacted by race, maybe, but not the dating outside the culture discussion. Shannon Sharp doesn't want any smoke in that area. And so he basically said, I'm not having that conversation with you. And I'm not an Umar apologist. There have been a myriad of things that Umar has spoke about that I agree with. There's been a myriad of things that Umar has done that I don't agree with. And so I don't allow anybody to, I don't follow anybody. But if I did, I wouldn't follow them blindly. I wouldn't follow them blindly. So I critique Umar and hold Umar accountable just as I would anyone else that I believe has a profound influence over our people. So I just wanted to kind of lay that foundation. So now that we've laid that foundation, I want to say what's up, to the super producer, 7 Mile Mark, 7 Mile Radio.
What's the word, man? What's the word, man? Feeling good today. How you feeling, brother?
Hey, man, I'm feeling real good today. I think this is going to be a good show. I actually have strong relationships with people that we wouldn't coin as descendants of Africans. And I have strong relationships with people who are of African descent, who have built families with individuals that are not of African descent.
Right.
And so I know that they would be interested to understand my take, even though I probably had conversations with them about it directly at some point. But, sometimes my ideas can change. And if you notice, I use the term culture and then the term African descent. I'm always attempting to move away from the term black and black people, and I'm trying to move away from that. And I'm trying to start to have more discussions that are about the culture as opposed to being about race. Yeah. Exactly. Like race is not a real thing. It is an illegitimate psychological construct that is used to propel some people to have privilege and to oppress and suppress other people and keep them in poverty.
What's up, Fee?
Yep. And so
yeah, and go ahead. I just had a thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna say, and so I don't subscribe to the concept of term of race anymore, but I do recognize the majority of us do, and race was used as a strategy to divide people, to give some privilege and to keep some in poverty.
I always felt like that word race in itself being used to describe the differences in people was divisive in the first place. Like, why is it called a race? Mm-hmm. Like it's a competition of some sort.
And it absolutely is. And what's going on with you, Romy Rome? Hey, Fee. And so you're exactly right. And Dr. Claude Anderson describes it very well. He says racism is a set of rules, regulations, and laws. It is a race to the money and the world's resources. And so that's why I don't support the guise of race anymore. I discuss things in terms of the culture. Because our culture is important. An individual asked Denzel Washington, why did the Great Debaters, or I want to say the Great Debaters, but one of the movies in which he directed, why did it need to be directed by a black man? Why was it about race? And he said it's not about color, it's about culture. He says, you and I understand the smell of the hair when the straightening comb goes through it on Sunday morning. Martin Scorsese did a good job with Goodfellas. The Jewish guy who directed Schindler's List did a good job with Schindler's List because they understand their culture. There's nothing wrong with being pro your culture, pro your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding all things your people. And if you don't have that, how can you interact with other cultures?
And I feel like it's divisive how another thing that's divisive is how any time that we try to create our own or anything that is of us is seen as a threat. It's seen as almost our version of racism, even though we can't be racist. I mean, because we have a little China, we got a little India, we got a little Mexico, we got all of that, especially in these urban cities. But anything we have and we try to put together for our own to represent us,
Right.
And it's like, oh, well, why do you need that?
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
everybody else got it.
Yep. And people need to understand that. What I would say to people outside the culture is that you need to back off and let black people build their own and really be really
It's
determined.
even black people that's against it.
Exactly. And I was going to holler at them next. The first thing is people outside the culture have to allow black people to determine who they want to be, what they want to be, and how they want to be that for themselves without any opinion or any discussion. If you're not completely 100% supporting it, you need to just back off, be quiet, and stay away. The people within the culture need to understand the importance of identifying self-determination, and doing things and building things for self. Kuju Chagulia, as it relates to my favorite holiday, Kwanzaa. And so it's important. That's very important. Now, with that being said, let's go back to the conversation that we were getting ready to begin where Umar and Shannon Sharp started to beef, and Shannon Sharp said it's basically none of your business. And I want to start there because that's going to start segment 2. Your ignorance is my business. And not to say that dating someone else outside the culture is ignorant, but not understanding why someone would be against it. If you don't know why, that is ignorant.
Understanding. You don't have to agree.
You don't have to agree, but you have to understand. And again, we don't have to agree on this, but it's important for us to understand how we see it through our lens. People don't understand culture. We definitely need this education and get out of those know and train, untrained habits. Absolutely. And so race is a competition. Oh, so Fee asks, what is race? Race is a competition, a set of rules and regulations to put some people in a position of privilege and put some people in a position to be impoverished. It is a race for the world's resources and the wealth in the world, so some people can live comfortably and happy with them and their children, and other people will be the burden bearers of this nation. That's what race is. And so I don't subscribe to the concept of race anymore. I like to discuss things in terms of culture. So we kind of laid the backdrop of why Umar was on tip with LeBron and Bronny, and how Shannon Sharp kind of cut into Umar. Umar challenged Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp said, get out of here. You go your way, I go my way. So now let's talk about it. Let's talk about race and dating outside the race. Absolutely. You are very welcome, Fee. So let's talk about it. So what are the implications of dating outside the race? Well, no, let's not do that. This is what I will do for you guys. I'm going to share with you how I see it. This is how I see it. Because race is a social construct that was used to divide groups of people, and the division of race did not start in modern day America. King Leopold II killed 15 million Africans. You feel me? So this did not just happen on American soil. It's always been about the world resources. It's always been about figuring out a way to subjugate the black body historically in America and outside of America for the sole purpose of controlling black bodies as a resource or controlling the resources of the land that black bodies sit on. So when you look at that, in order to do that, to justify it, you have to classify black people as something that is unworthy of being defended if you want to hurt and harm them in that capacity. That's one of the precursors of race. So once that happened, that created a scenario where black people were perceived to be less than. And white people, and I'm using this term because I know that you guys understand it, were perceived to be more than. What that does psychologically for black men when they get money, if they don't love themselves enough to understand who they are, they feel like they are dating up when they date a white woman in many, many instances because they don't love themselves. Now, let me be clear. I'm going to clean all of this up before we finish. So let me finish my ideals and my thoughts. That is why this is termed, is dating outside the culture the answer? Because for black men, in some instances who are wealthy, like a LeBron James, who happen to just fall in love very young, he essentially is telling his son, you may not find a black woman that you dig. You may or you may not. And if you don't, this is a viable option for you because she's going to listen. She's going to do what you say. But what other people don't realize is that if you marry outside of your culture, you are putting all of your wealth and resources at risk to be half of them to be taken outside of your culture. Look at what happened to Tiger Woods. Half of his entire fortune was taken back to Switzerland. Think about that. And so not only do they control the world's wealth and all of the resources of the world, the resources and wealth that we gain as individuals that are large in sum can be chopped in half and taken back to fathers and grandfathers of another culture, brothers of another culture, sisters and cousins of another culture. So that further weakens our ability to use our own resources as a foundation to build and grow. One of the other things that we must consider in this dynamic is that because of the entire foundation of race being used to not only subjugate people, descendants of African, but to belittle them, demean them, and make them quote unquote 3/5 human, what you essentially are doing is you are creating a dynamic where this entire culture of people have to rebuild themselves. In the rebuilding process, it is important to love someone who looks like your mother. It is important to love someone who looks like your sister. It is important to love someone who can help you, who understands your experiences, experiences, who understand how to cook your food, who understands how your body responds to milk, understand how you interact with all things that are of your culture. And when you are building that, you are teaching your children to do the same. So you are growing and strengthening all the things that have been destroyed historically by racism and quote unquote what some people call white supremacy and the divisions that come with that. That has to be rebuilt. Now, my position would be like this. If the world was perfect and there had never been a time historically where black people have been subjugated or descendants of Africans have been subjugated, disenfranchised, disoriented, treated like trash, having all their resources taken and their own physical resources taken, and being subjected to chattel slavery for over 250 years and then another 150 years of de facto and de jure segregation. None of that ever happened. And the black man was able to roam the world without being persecuted and seen as anything other than an African man. I would say that an African man can roam this world and date anybody he wants to date, because there would be no healing process necessary, no reparations necessary, no repairing of the mind, body, spirit, and soul and understanding of the culture necessary, because he would have never been subjugated to all of the poisons that he has been subjugated to by creating this fake construct of race. I would say that a man and woman should date whoever makes them happy. Everybody in the world who has never been subjected to what the black man has been subjected to has the spiritual, psychological, and emotional freedom to date anybody they want to date without any consequences or repercussions spiritually, emotionally, or psychologically, with the exception of if they date someone black. Now, if you are outside of the culture and you date someone black, you will be subjected to the experiences that the black person has already been subjected to, because that is the person that you chose. That is why if you are white and you date someone black, your family starts to treat you differently in some instances. If it's not a family member, it's a friend. If they don't do it directly, they do it indirectly. Or your children will be subjected to these scrutinies as they start to grow up and navigate the world. They will be confused. They won't completely understand who they are. It is important that you teach them about both cultures and both histories. That is a lot of hard work. But on the flip side, If you are black, it is so much more than that, because you have now taken away your ability to rebuild what has been broken and repaired with someone who has went through those exact same experiences with you, just like you. When you are in an interracial relationship and the black person in the relationship is subjected to racism, hurt, harm, danger, while the white counterpart may empathize with their mate, love their mate, and hurt for their mate, they still have to understand that as they matriculate through society, they still benefit from white privilege, which they can't divorce from, which still that privilege is subjugating some black person somewhere in the world. And that is what Umar is trying to articulate. So now, with all of that being said, if you fall in love with someone that is not of your race and you love them and you build a strong family that are good humans, I'm going to support you. I'm going to repeat what I just said. If you fall in love with someone, and I mean be loving them, building with them, making your union the number one priority, and you have children together, and you are going to be together, and you love each other, and you are good humans, and you work to better humanity, I'm going to support your relationship. After everything that I just said. So I hope that what we just discussed was clear. I hope that my position is clear. And I hope that you understand my position through the lens of being a man of African descent, with understanding and highlighting the importance of understanding all that we've been subjected to here in America, and why Umar feels the way that he feels. It is productive, counter-revolutionary, and counterintuitive to not build upon what you already know you have to repair and heal. Now, here's the interesting pivot. Because there is so much healing required in the black community, black women are starting to pivot away from black men and consider men of other cultures, because the work is so hard to reconcile the ills, the hurt, and the pain that the black man has experienced. And thus, because he's experienced so much pain and scrutiny under the regime of American politics, American racism, American economics, that he thus sometimes mistreats his black woman. And because of those things, they can't get along. So thus, they don't come together to build something together. They both go in separate directions and build something separately with other people, which further weakens our ability to strengthen what we need to strengthen in order to survive in America. So did everybody follow that?
Yeah, I know I did.
Everybody with me?
I know I did. Yeah, man. Everybody's they with you in the comments, man. I'm watching them. They teach.
For sure.
Everybody saying they agree with you, man. So and then shout out to everybody on YouTube as well. Shout out to Lamont and Fair Notice over there on YouTube. What's up?
Yeah, and so that's kind of where we at with that. So riddle me this. What do I say to my people who are in an interracial relationship? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm close to them, I will tell them exactly what I just said. If we kind of close and they never ask my opinion, I won't say anything.
Because they're going to take it as a defense.
They're not good. They won't be prepared.
Yeah.
But when we engage in these conversations, I always tell people how I feel. I always treat every union that I believe is a good union with the utmost respect. And anyone who knows me and they are in an interracial marriage, they have never got any energy from me other than love and positivity, because that's how I move. Because it's not my job to regulate that. Although I have a position, a political position, a cultural position that commands that I speak my truth, I'm going to support someone who is walking in their truth. Because one of the other things that I learned from someone that is very, very important, your belief about your thing is always going to be far more important than my belief about your thing. Do you follow what I'm saying? So your position, your belief on your life is always going to be more important than my opinion about your beliefs. My opinion about your beliefs
It's just that your
it
opinion.
means nothing, and vice versa. So we're talking about in this instance, my beliefs. What I believe in relates to my beliefs are the most important. But I'm not going to project my beliefs on you as it relates to your beliefs. I'm going to let you believe what you believe, but I'm going to stand strong.
And that's one of the issues that we have amongst our people is we can't agree to disagree. I think I've said this before on the show. When we have differences in opinion, we try to impose those thoughts or those views or those theologies on somebody else, and that's just not that's not their life. You know what I mean? That's not the way they see it. That's not the way they operate. All of us are different, and that's what makes us different is because we all operate differently. So, I mean, you can't expect someone to just go along with what you say because that's what's for you. That's what's for you. It's your
Absolutely.
opinion in their eyes. It's your opinion.
Absolutely. One of the greatest honors that you can bestow upon your mother is to marry a woman that looks like your mother. And I won't say that about fathers because there is a large contingent of fathers who are not necessarily present. So that opens the door for that percentage of individuals, but typically the mom is present. And that doesn't mean that you have to marry a woman that's like your mother, because
Right.
your mother may have had a lot of things going on that you didn't. But if you loved her and you appreciate the fact that she created you, then the best honor that you can bestow upon her is to date a woman or marry a woman who looks like her. And then I'm going to say this, and I've said this before, excuse me. Samuel L. Jackson's wife said the only reason why she stayed with Samuel L. Jackson was because she had to find something that tied them together that was even bigger than them as individuals. And she realized that there was nothing more revolutionary than a black man and a black woman building a family together and staying together. And she said that is what kept them together. With him overdosing on drugs, abusing drugs, or whatever he was doing, running the streets, she said that's what kept them together. And that's powerful. And so I say that to say there is a lot of work to be done specifically in the culture, in our culture with descendants of Africans. And that work begins with self-determination. And then that work morphs into understanding and building, not only just understanding what you want for yourself and your people, but walking in that light and building something that supports that idea. And that is where your choice and mate come into play. But again, you find someone that you love and you for certain that works for you, I'm going to support that union because I'm going to support love and being human. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
So what about the people, right, that look like us that feel like, ideas like what you presenting to the people is wrong as far as, I guess you kind of spoke on it already. Let people do what they want to do, right? It's their life. It doesn't make a difference. It's not gonna affect our culture, as much as you. It's people that's basically, when you present this pro-black narrative, it's black people that have a problem with it. What do you think that is?
Well, one of the reasons why black people have a problem with it is because they have not come to grips and come to terms in understanding how all things that have been constructed in America impact black people or descendants of Africans. They think things are just still happening. They don't understand the historical context.
These people are, quote, sleep, as they call it.
Yep, they don't understand historical context to the degree in which even the smallest of our choices impact all of us, which leads us into the perfect segue into our second segment, which is your ignorance is my business. So the first thing that people will discuss is, like Shannon Sharp said, it's not any of your business, and Shannon Sharp should be ashamed of himself. He went to Savannah State. He grew up in the rural South with a grandmother who, and not to be ashamed of himself for dating white women, let me be clear, because I don't want you guys to misconstrue and think I'm double talking. he should be ashamed of himself of not understanding the context in which Umar is coming from. What Shannon Sharpe is trying to do is protect himself and protect his own set of values. He's not speaking or thinking from the perspective of all people and all of his experiences prior to having a dime, prior to playing for the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos. Because he would be more sympathetic to Umar's position had he still been 16 years old living in the rural South. His position has changed because his opportunities in the world have changed.
And he's benefited from this
Exactly.
system somewhat.
Exactly. So for me, Shannon Sharpe should be ashamed of himself because in the back of his mind, he knows that Umar is correct as it relates to Umar's belief system. If Umar,
maybe not that individual, right?
If Umar believes what he believes, the supporting information for his belief is on point in relationship to being sufficient support to what he believes. Now, if you don't believe that, that's different. But I believe that Shannon Sharpe, deep in his heart, agrees with Umar. But he cannot take that position because of the choices that he currently makes in his dating.
And where he is right now in
because
his life,
of his dating. And the reason why
his dating, yeah,
because of who he dates. And the reason why I believe that Shannon Sharpe agrees with Umar but just can't publicly say anything, because Shannon Sharpe eloquently speaks about what we've experienced as Africans on American soil so eloquently that he has to truly understand where Umar is coming from.
He has to understand.
He knows. He knows. He just can't take that position. He just can't take that position. And so his ignorance lies with his inability to keep it a buck with himself.
So basically, as they say, your loyalty is basically lies with who you lay in the bed with. Basically, kind of same.
Absolutely.
Basically, where that is with him.
Absolutely.
And I didn't even, going into this conversation, I knew, but I guess I forgot that Shannon Sharpe was dating a white woman.
Well, he's done it that's kind of like his thing.
Right.
Yep, and that's kind of like his thing. Now, when it becomes your thing,
that's why he took it personally attacked. That's why he probably took it upon himself to feel like it was his role to defend Bronny in that situation because that's that's his lifestyle.
Now, if you in and out and you dating all types of women and you popping these women, but then you decide when you get married you're going to marry a black woman, I kind of understand where you're coming from. You're saying that my final call is going to be to build a black family. I'm just experiencing life. But when you begin to consistently just date outside of your race, you have determined that there is something going on with the
grass.
women.
The grass is greener on the other side.
You have determined something's going on within the race, within the culture.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so that's another discussion or issue or challenge in and of itself that we may or may not get to, but let's kind of stay on this path of your ignorance is my business. So the gentleman who wore the hoochie daddy shorts, a lot of people said, why are you worried about that? Bronny James, who he's dating, why are you worried about that? Who you sleep with, why are we worried about that? And I'm going to explain this to you as clearly and concisely as I can. There have been some nights when my family members may have been dealing with something that I couldn't sleep at night. And it frustrated me or made me so sad that I would stay up at night. And my wife can attest to this. There have been times when my family members would go through something and I couldn't sleep. And someone would say, well, why are you worried about that? You got your children, you got your family to deal with. But I still worry, I still am concerned. There have been times where things have happened in our community that hurt me so bad that I couldn't really kind of get myself together that day because I love my people that much. So I feel like because I genuinely hurt for my people, I am qualified to have an opinion on things that are counter-revolutionary or counterproductive for my people. And so that, my people, is why other people mind your ignorance is my business. Because when you do things that are counter-revolutionary to the culture, it destroys our political foundation that we would try to build and the position that we try to take in building up black boys to be leaders in the household. these things are detrimental to that ideal. And now if that is not your ideal and you don't care about it, then you're not in this fight. But if you want your daughter to marry a strong black boy, if you want your daughter not to be beat by her husband, if you want your daughter to not be married to a man that is in the closet, if you want all of these things for your daughter, then you have to allow someone to critique the behaviors that can influence your son in a way that will not allow him to be what you want him to be. You can't want all of these things for your son, but say what someone else is doing that can impact your son is only their business. You have to understand that. Also, it is important for us to understand that a lot of people are describing how black men are absent in the household, which is a fair assessment and critique if in fact that is the case. But we're not speaking about the other things that these black boys are not learning from their single moms. So the single mom, if the black man is not there, what are you responsible for to still make certain that he becomes at least a marriable black man? And maybe he may not have all the faculties of being a strong man and leader in the house, but he can learn them as he grows and goes along. But does he at least have a foundation of respect, honor, honesty, being an earner, understanding responsibility, things that a woman can teach a man? And so the cycle continues. If you don't have a good black man in your life, then your sole purpose on this earth is to make your son a good black man. Or are you going to further the cycle where the next girl has your son and he's not a good black man? All I want you to do is think. I'm not coming for you. So your ignorance is my business, because all things that you don't understand that you do that are counterproductive to our people, our culture, we have to deal with that because it sends us going in a backwards direction. We have to continue to trek and move forward. Now, let me be clear. Let's say a person promotes an alternative, they promote an alternative lifestyle. If let's say you are a man and you date men. I'm okay with that. Your beliefs are your beliefs. Do your thing. I don't even have an opinion about it. When I come in contact with people who of alternative lifestyles or whatever the case may be, I have family members whom I love who don't subscribe to heterosexual relationships at this time. But even outside of my family, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't impact me. But now where it would impact me is if you sat down and had a conversation with my son and you said, being gay is cool, you should try it. So you can't tell my son, because you don't have the jurisdiction to teach my son anything other than what I want my son to be taught. But let me go here with it. When we are on social media and we see these ideals and we see these behaviors, and then we are promoting any type of sexuality to children, whether it be homosexuality or heterosexuality, we are jumping the gun, we are doing too much, and we are going to have to unteach something. So you don't have the right to teach a 7-year-old boy, be with girls. You can tell your son, in our home, we want to get married, we want to build a family, whatever you want to teach your son as your son's teacher. But outside of the family, you don't have the right to tell a boy, be with girls, or tell a boy, be with girls, or be with boys. You don't have the right to tell a girl, be with girls, and you don't have the right to tell a girl, be with boys. You just don't have the right to have sexuality discussions with underage children or promote anything that they could put their eyes on before they can make strong cognitive decisions for themselves.
They're not old enough to participate in the act. Why are we teaching them or suggesting to them any kind of option in that area is my whole thing.
So if a grown man decides he wants to wear a thong on Instagram and he posts it on a page that little kids can see, he is now in error because now the child has to ask, can I wear those? What are they? Or what is that?
So what do you think about this scenario, brother? It kind of ties into the conversation about what we're speaking on, your ignorance is my business, especially since we're talking about the sexualization of kids, right? I had a sister who was on my Facebook, who is on my Facebook friends, who earlier this year as they opened school back up, she took her 8-year-old son into the first day of first grade. And as she went into the classroom, the only seat next to where where her son was assigned to sit, the only open seat was next to a little boy who was dressed like a girl in first grade.
Okay.
And the mother felt like that was an issue to the point where she didn't allow her son to be enrolled in that class. And when she posted this scenario on Facebook, it was a lot of people who felt like she was wrong for that. What do you feel about that?
I think everybody who said she was wrong for that was stupid. That was a stupid position. And I'm going to explain to you why. So
this is her child. And
exactly.
This is what go ahead. I'll let you do it. That I have my take on it. Go
yep.
ahead.
So let's start here with it. First thing is, the boy that is wearing the dress in class is well within his rights to wear a dress in class. His parents are well within their rights to dress him in a dress. If my son was in the class, I probably would not remove my son. I would just tell my son, that's not your business. We wear pants, and that's it. Don't have any opinion about this boy wearing dresses because it's not your business. However, if any parent decides that they wanted to remove their son because they didn't want him there, they're well within their rights. And it is nobody's opinion about the removal either. So you don't have an opinion about the dress and you don't have an opinion about the removal. Those are those singular families' decisions, and it is their right. You are being ignorant by having an opinion on the kid wearing a dress or expressing that opinion out to the world. And you are being ignorant and expressing opinion about the mother who made a decision to remove her son. It is not your right to have you can have whatever an opinion you want, but to press that on somebody else and make them feel a certain way, you do not have the right to make people feel a certain way because you want to have an opinion. That's the way that I feel about it. And so I think, so now let's say the mother had a strong opinion. She came for the little boy and the mama. She just opened her door up to it at that point, though, And so now it's karma. But my original opinion is you don't have the right to critique that mother for removing her son. She is well within her rights to remove her son from that class. She just needs to not speak on it and move on with her life. Let the young man wear the dress. Let the young man live his life. Let the young man do the thing. Because the thing that this young man does have the right to, good brother, and this is real talk as a human being, he has the right to go through the world wearing a dress and still be treated like a human being.
Most definitely.
He has that right.
Most definitely.
And I believe that. I
Most
believe
definitely.
that he should never in one day of his life feel hurt because he wearing a dress. Even though my son is not doing it.
Most definitely.
But he deserves to live his life wearing dresses and be happy. He deserves
If that's what makes him happy, then he deserves to do that.
And that's
just like if it makes me happy and it makes me feel more comfortable as a parent to not allow my son to be possibly influenced, like you said, the conversation. Hey, he's sitting next to him. You should try being gay. I need to nip that situation in the bud. As a father, as a parent, that's why, and it's counterproductive to what I teach my son at home. And I feel like schools and the classroom is sometimes it can be a heavier influence on the kid than sometimes what's going on at home, because you got peer pressure, and I see all of them doing this is what my peers is doing. I want to fit into my social atmosphere. So I'm going to play into what I see going on in school.
Yeah.
And that can be a detriment to what I'm teaching you at home. That can be counterproductive to what I'm teaching you or what I'm teaching you at home. So
absolutely. Now let me say this. There's a difference between group classification, forced group classification, and group classification. Forced group classification is forcing people to be in a group that they may or may not want to be in. Group classification by choice is like a motorcycle club. We are a motorcycle club. If you don't ride a motorcycle, then you really can't be in this club. Or if you don't ride on the back of a motorcycle with your man, you
Right.
can't be in this club. If you not gang banging, you can't be a gang banger. You follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it is nothing wrong with gays having a group. The LGBTQ community having a
Have
group
a group.
that they feel most comfortable with. If it's a choice, if it's a group process, a choice to have this group, no factions of humanity should force anybody into an ostracized group, forced group classification. Group classification should be by choice. And I said that to say this. You're going to have group classification in everything that we do. The National Association of Realtors, the National Media Association, the
NRA. You got all
the
that.
NRA, the Association of Psychological, the American Psychological Association of America, the Motion Picture Association of America, the NAACP.
NAACP, I was about to say, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The New African Movement, the Marcus Garvey Movement, a motorcycle club, the
Social clubs,
Aryan
all of
Nation.
these.
So being classified and being in a group, little boys that want to wear dresses, Group of America, grown men that want to wear thongs of America. So groups are going to be made. And because you're in a group, that doesn't mean that humanity is against you. If you make your own group, make your own group. Now, where group classification becomes detrimental to human health is when they are forced group classification. I'm forcing you into this area. I'm redlining you. I'm making you live in the ghetto. I'm making all the gays stay in the corner. That forced group classification is inhumane, it's illegal, it's ungodlike, and it is not of love. And that's kind of my position on those things.
But yeah, that was just a real interesting situation that I spoke on a few months back. Like I said, when school first started up, it was real hot on social media, and it's a lot of back and forth been going on about those type of situations with the over sexualizing the kids or sexualizing the kids. Period, and how we have different elements of sex being taught in elementary schools now. You know what I mean?
Yep. So my son attends a school, and I know that this is the curriculum because I know that the principal really doesn't support what I believe they were getting ready, the discussion that they were getting ready to have in school. But what I do believe about this principal is that he is intelligent enough to know that all the things that I'm fighting for to provide these children with an African-centered education, I'm going to have to give up something so these people won't be bothering me about all the things I'm trying to do to work with my kids. You feel me? Mm-hmm. So he's on that tip. But one of the teachers asked the kids in the class, do you know what LGBTQ means? So my son came home and said, my teacher asked me, because my son has an innate spirit to understand when he's trying to understand something. He comes to his pops and says, yeah, well, my teacher asked me, did I know what LGBTQ mean? And so I told him what it meant. And I said, these are a faction and group of people who live alternative lifestyles who deserve to be respected, but that ain't what we do. You feel me? And so I was very clear with my son. I said, this is a faction and group of people who live alternative lifestyles, including dating people of their same gender. And they deserve to be respected and given the utmost respect as human beings. But that is not what we do in our home. That is not what we do. And when I said what we do, I was describing him and I.
Right.
As men. You feel me?
Right.
And so that was the extent of the conversation. But I said, this is what I want you to do, son. When your teacher, Mama Blank, says that to you again, I need your question to her to be this. Why are you asking us this question? Why are we discussing this in class? I told him, don't say anything else. You asked the simple question, why are we discussing this? And why are we discussing this in class today? And that's all I want you to ask her and get an answer. Because what I want, she will know why he asked that question.
Absolutely.
And she will understand that she is now responsible to give him a respectable answer. And she is going to owe the class an answer. And that's all I told him to do. You ask her, why are we having this conversation in class today, Mama Blank? Why are we talking about this today? That's it. So
That's a better question. That's a better question to be asked in the classroom as opposed to explaining what it is. Why are you teaching me about this?
exactly, just ask the question and document
Why are
and,
you
and
teaching me
document
about
her answer. That's it. We ain't gonna talk about nothing else until we get the answer as to why this is your choice of topic discussion. And once we get that, then we can determine how we move forward. I just want to know because it may be a viable discussion to be had in class because she may want to make sure that they are on solid footing and understanding all of these things because they are going to be they're going to encounter them anyway. Yeah. But I just want to know why. And if you can come up with a viable answer, let's talk about it, let's explore it, and let's just make sure that all human beings are treated human. That's kind of my position on it. So I didn't write a letter or a trip or none of that.
Right.
Because I know I believe in my son's ability to block out whatever he believes he needs to block out and to accept whatever he needs to accept. I trust him.
This is building his comprehension skills, you know what I mean, at that age. And being able to understand why people are doing certain things, asking certain things. I mean, it's a little bit beyond just reading comprehension. It's almost like an intellectual comprehension of why are we talking about this?
Absolutely.
And then his ability to be able to have those conversations on his own and form them on his own critical thinking skills is really what I was talking about, as opposed to it's forming his own critical thinking skills and being able to problem solve on his own. You're just giving him the blueprint to do so.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to want to end this final segment with when individuals have started to make this pivot because they're not finding what has been termed based on the late, now very well known Kevin Samuels as a high quality man or woman. So let us define so people are starting to pivot outside the culture looking for a high quality man or woman. So let's define high quality man or woman for me. A high quality man or woman is a man or woman who understands love, understands how to treat another human being, understands their roles and responsibilities to the community and to society, and walks in a highly regarded light where they are respected by other people. None of that has anything to do with how much money you make and how much you have. However, your financial position can enhance those positive qualities about you. That's what a high quality man is to me. A high quality man is not somebody who wears a suit every day who makes 150 grand. That's not a high quality man. That can still be a low quality man or a low quality woman, and they can still be low moral standards and character. So I'm speaking of people who understand who they are and are of high moral standing and character. That's what I term a high quality man or woman. So now that we have that definition in play, the pivot away from your own culture to look for that. When you believe that there is nothing left in your own community of people, your own reservoir or your own group sector, you have all but given up on yourself. You have all but given up on your mother. You have all but given up on your father. Now again, falling in love with someone outside of your race and building a family is not what we're talking about. I am not against that when it gets to the point where it is etched in stone. I'm talking about the person with the ideological mindset that there are no more good black men and good black women available. So now I'm gone. I have given up on my people. I have given up on the prospects of finding a good man of African descent. I've given up on the prospect of finding a good woman of African descent. Now think about that for a minute. Now, Jay DeBlack, I don't know if you guys know Jay DeBlack, he got a YouTube page. Jay DeBlack was having a conversation about the Umar Shannon Sharp exchange, and he said out of his own mouth, and I quote, "There are not any women, black women left that are of marriage material." He said that in his own opinion. And I posted to him in a comment and said, "Jay DeBlack, that has to be one of the dumbest things that I've ever heard you say, bro." And I said, the majority of black men are married to black women. You need to do better, bro, and left it at that. If you don't believe that there is a high quality black man left and available for you, black woman, you have all but given up on yourself. If you don't believe that there are any more black women of high quality and high standards and moral character left for you, black man, you have all but given up on yourself. And I'm going to end the show there, and I'm going to leave it at that. I appreciate you guys for tapping in with us today. Thank everybody who came on. Niche, Jew, Cynthia, Deanna, Venetia, all my family members that came on. Fee, Tiffany, Jerome, everybody who came on today and rocked with us. Everybody on Twitter. Everybody on YouTube. Everybody on all the social media platforms. Thank you for supporting Revolutionary Wealth Builders. Go over to our not our Twitter page. Go over to our YouTube page, Revolutionary Wealth Builders. Like, share, and subscribe. Go over there and subscribe. Let's get me up to 300 subscribers before July. Come on, we need your support. We got 200 and something. We need some more. Go over to Revolutionary Wealth Builders. Like, share, and subscribe. And smash that notification bell so you'll know every time we make a new video. The algorithms love it, and they'll start sharing my videos, and we can educate more people. So peace and love. We'll see you guys next Thursday at 11 a.m. on Revolutionary Wealth Builders over here on 7 Mile Radio. Peace.